Welcome to Unshakable with Human Design, the show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs use human design to shift from hustle to flow without sacrificing results. Come here to become an unshakable human and build an unshakable business according to your human design. I'm your host, Nicole Laino. Hello and welcome to Unshakable with Human Design, everybody. I'm your host, Nicole Laino, and I am so happy to be here with you for our final episode of the Variable series. This one felt like it went by so fast. It was only 4 episodes. I hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into this underlying layer of the human design chart. I hope that it gave you insights into what makes you tick, and maybe gave you some aha moments of things that you can do to reduce resistance in your life or understand the people in your life even more. If you have been enjoying it, I hope that you know to enter into our contest. If you haven't entered already, I hope that this inspires you to do so right now. Take a little screenshot of you listening to this show. Just take a little screenshot on your phone, put it into your Instagram stories. Tell us what you loved about the series, what you're loving about the show, what you love about human design, any of those things. Share it, and don't forget to tag me. I'm at Nicole Laino Official. That share, and you can enter as many times as you like, that share will get you an entry into our contest where you can win a human design reading here on the show. And I will announce that on my Instagram. The winner will hear from us first, but I will announce it on my Instagram in my stories a week from this show airing. So that's when it will close. It's going to close just a week after this. It'll be the following Wednesday. I'll put that out on my Instagram stories, and then the winner will be notified, and then we'll schedule your interview for here on the show. Okay. We also have a variables guide. If you want to dive into this deeper, it's a free guide for you. And all you have to do to get that is DM me the word variables on Instagram, and we will send it to you there, or go to NicoleLaino.com/variables, and you can download it right there on the website. Okay. So let's talk about variables. Let's talk about this. I'm going to give a little overview just once again for anybody who's joining us for the first time. Maybe you haven't been listening to the whole series and this is your first episode. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what variables are, but then I encourage you to go back and listen to the previous 3 episodes, because you want to dive into all of it to really have this full understanding of both your unconscious stuff and the stuff that's going to influence more your personality. What's the stuff that's going to be more about your body and your environment, and then the things that are going to be more aligned with your personality. We're on the personality side today. So the variables are represented by those little arrows on either side of the head center on the human design chart. If you look at the chart, you see these arrows. They're usually very confusing for people. They're like, what do these arrows mean? And then you look, if you get a full chart, you might see a bunch of words that don't really seem to make sense, like determination, and it'd say something like brain or motivation or trajectory and all of this stuff. Really what those words are referring to are the elements below the line, below the profile lines. So I'm a 5-1. You might be a 6-3, a 4-6, a 4-1, whatever your profile is, there's more data about you underneath that profile line. And we do this for both the sun and earth and the nodes on each side. So that's where we're getting these numbers from. It's below that. It does not mean that I'm a 5, so then everything I have is going to be 5s underneath it. No, it can change based on your birth time. So this is just another level of nuance that we get to, of depth of your differentiation. Ra referred to this, that this is what separates twins, that those couple of minutes could mean that they have a different way of eating, or something is changing at the color, tone, or base level. So that's what we have here. We have the profile line, and then this is what we refer to in the biz as below the line, is that when you go below that, you get to a color and you get to a tone. So that's when you see something like brain, motivation, trajectory. Those are referring to either colors or tones in your chart. Now, we're only going to the color level. When we get to tone, we get to greater differentiation. My goal with this series is to keep this simple and impactful and not at all confusing. And when we get to the tone, we can definitely get a little bit confused. It doesn't need to be a fire hose shooting information at you. I want this to be usable. Like, I want everything on this show to be usable. I want this to actually impact you rather than me just be doing a dance about how much stuff I know about human design. Okay, let's talk today. We have covered determination, which is digestion, that top left arrow. We did the environment, which is the bottom left arrow. We've talked about motivation. That is the top right arrow. And now we're down at the bottom right-hand corner and we're talking about perspective. That's what this variable represents. That arrow represents your perspective in life. It is very closely related to the motivation. You'll notice that when I go through the 6 different types of perspective, ways of seeing that we have, perspectives that we have, you're going to notice that they sound a bit like the motivation, but your motivation and your perspective can be different. I'm also going to share some reflections that I've had in my life, and particularly how my husband and I have the same motivation. We have different perspectives. And it's very interesting. I see it all the time. And I'm going to talk about how this is something that I use particularly when there are teams, when we're doing business analysis. I really look at perspective because it does tell us everything in the chart. There are potential gifts. Now, you might not see properly. You might have a skewed way of seeing. And what I think is interesting about perspective is it's very closely related to the motivation in the sense that they have similar themes, but they're not the same. But this is actually very closely related to the environment. So the environment arrow, if you think about it, that tells you where you belong. The environment that is most nurturing to you as a human being, that is where your nervous system will be at ease. It's the place you are meant to be in. That's what it represents. Now, when we come over to the other side and we get to perspective, if you aren't in the right place, you won't see properly. So like everything in the human design chart and world, it's to have it or to have not. So if you have gate 7, say, and 7 is about leadership and having a path forward and seeing patterns for ways that we can live better. And that's just sort of a sense of an inner leader in you. My son has this. My son has gate 7, and I see leadership in that kid, but that leadership needs to be nurtured. Now, if he was growing up in a home where we were overlords over him and we were super controlling and we never gave him the chance to lead, or we let him be a bully or something like that, then that would be an example of how leadership never really got to bloom in him in a positive way. But instead, I actively work with him to build that quality because I know it's going to be a big energy for him and I want it to be good energy. So what do? I tell him that in his Taekwondo class, I call out when kids are new. My son's really good, and he's definitely like a leader in that class. They look up to him. So I suggest to him, I'm like, you know what I bet would be really nice? If you told that kid over there who's new and I think he was struggling, why don't you go tell him that he did a good job? So that has sort of created, and then I had a conference with his teacher. Apparently he's doing that in his class at school. Why? Not because I just set a good example for him and set him up that way, but because I know certain things about him, they're going to come out. I'm either going to repress them or they're going to come out, and they might come out in not a great way. And he does have some of that too, where we have to work on them. So just like everything else in the human design chart, it needs to be nurtured. Otherwise, it can come out, either it can be really repressed or it can be really reactive and not what we want. These can be the exact same way, and we have a little less control over them, so to speak, because they are so unconscious to us. They are a color of the way we live. They're sort of like this overlay or an underlay, so to speak. Okay? So the perspective is determined, and you'll see what you're meant to see, is how Ra put it, if you are in the right environment. So environment, the physical environment, determines whether the personality will see properly. Let's dive in. I want to talk to you about the 6 different types. As I go through them, I think it'll be clearer how this works. So the first type of perspective, the first way of seeing, is investigative. These are people that are seeing patterns, they are analytical, they are looking for what we can count on, right? They're looking at what we can count on. They are trying to determine whether the pattern, whether things look right, because that first level is always looking for what can we prove? How can we make ourselves feel more secure by recognizing where we went wrong? These are the analysts. These are the ones that come in, if you think about the stock market, the ones who pore over the trend reports and over the graphs. And they are looking for the trends. They are looking for the patterns so that they can predict the way the future will go, so they can make the right move, so they can make the most money, so they can feel secure. That is that person, right? Now, they might be really good at that, or they might not be great at it. It does not mean that you're going to be awesome at this. It is a skill to be honed, but it is your way of seeing So it is a potential that you can bring if it is in good standing with the rest of your chart. If you're living by strategy and authority, if you're living as you truly are meant to be, then your perspective will be honed. Now, with great power comes great responsibility. So I'm sure there are analysts out there who are doing terrible things with their gift. It doesn't mean that you're going to be a good person, but it does mean that this is probably a particular talent that those people have. Okay? Now we come to the second layer, which is possibility. It is much more philosophical. That second layer is about potential. These are the dreamers. These are the people that can see a bit further out than the rest of us can. Again, very similar to that hope second level of motivation. They're able to see potential. These are the people that will be like, have you ever thought about doing it this way? And you may never have. That might have been too ambitious for you to think of because you're not aligned with hope and potential and possibility. You don't see that way. Maybe you're more of a realist, which is on the other side. We'll get to that one. But maybe you're not seeing things that way, but they are. So these are the people that this is somebody like your mastermind group who pulls out a really great idea that's a bit out there, but you're like, ooh, could I do that? That's this perspective. The third perspective is power, political. This is mine. These are people who see the game. They see power structures. They see hierarchies. They see how the game is played, really. They see the players. They see who's important. They might be taken by hierarchical structures. So I'm going to speak from my own perspective because I have this perspective. So let me tell you a little bit about this. My perspective is political. When I was in high school, the thing that I wanted to be, what I wanted to do with my life was my dream job was that I would run a presidential campaign, that I would be like a campaign manager. Can you imagine? That was what I thought I wanted to do. And I remember just feeling like I see what they're getting wrong. I see how this game works. I see how I could play it. I remember there was just this feeling like I get this and I see how the strings are pulled. Now, granted, maybe when I look at my chart, I look at that and I say, I get why I wanted to do it. I would probably have done a lot of good in that space, or I would have been completely corrupted by it. Who the hell knows? I probably wouldn't be doing the work I do now, but we never know. I look at that all the time and I do wonder. I don't desire that life. I didn't do it because it seemed corrupt, like it would suck the soul right out of my body. But to this day, I still look and I see the structures and I see how it works. But then I go to my corporate career. I saw who the important players were. I knew how to make those relationships and alliances. And now what I would fall into sometimes is maybe feeling like I saw my place in the hierarchical structure and it felt not good. So I didn't feel empowered to step up. Still have that to this day. So that is a perspective that I work with, and I have to work with it to bring it where I don't see myself in that system as small and that I'm able to really use the gift. But this is how this works. So this can really show us a lot of insight into why somebody works the way they work or why they have some of the challenges that they have. And it can give us a window into how we can approach it. So this is really, really fascinating when I work with executives, when I work with teams, because understanding how people have different points of view, literally they see the world differently. This can be so eye-opening to understand each other and also to value each other's point of view and realize what we bring to the table. If we let go of that I have to be right, that maybe we get the actual 360 perspective if we have representatives from all the different areas and everybody comes in there just looking to get the best ideas out there and to get the clearest understanding of what's really going on, rather than my way is right, my way is right, my way is right, which is where we get into trouble. Now, my husband has realistic, which we'll get to that in just a second. He's a realist. He's aligned with real power, but we'll get to that in just a second because I want to do the fourth one. And then I'll talk about how he and I see things differently and how that's helped us understand how we view things. So the fourth type, this one is the one that resonates with needs. This is social. This one sees the other. This is the community aspect. This is the person that the way that they see is they see the needs of others. They see the needs of the many and they recognize those. Now that can be for personal gain. You might see what the community needs and you go and fill that need by creating something. But typically this has more of a heart-centered approach. and maybe more activism you would see here. You would see this more about putting the needs of others ahead of your own. That is that perspective. So these are the people that look out. So we're taking a step up. We're going a little bit less selfish from my perspective, which is political, which might be seeing like how the game is played. Now we take it to the next level and we say like, oh, well, this is what the people need. Let's actually get it to them. Now that's your way of seeing. I'm motivated by need, but what I see is how the game is played. Okay, they're very similar definitions. However, most people have different ones. Your motivation and your perspective will typically be different, but they don't have to be. They might be the same. For me, they are different. I have need motivation and I have a political point of view. Okay, now the fifth type is that the realist. This is the person who is seeing what's probable, not potential, not possible. It's not aspirational. It's super practical. It's just like, what's useful? Can we really get this done or can't we get it done? Now, this person can be great at getting things done that it believes can get done. They will be the ones to take action or set other people in motion to get things done. So really valuable member of a team, very leadership energy. However, they can also shut things down because they're just like, that can't be done. Do you see how you would need someone with that philosophical possibility aligned perspective alongside maybe someone who's more of a realist to maybe move us forward while still getting stuff done? So we're not in dreamland all the time, just being like, oh, I wish it could just be like this, or maybe we could do this big idea. And we're also not in the like, can't be done, never been done, let's be real here. How do we balance that where we get to be aspirational and be realistic as well, take realistic steps, actually create something tangible? That's what they're interested in. So this is my husband's perspective. So living in the same home, when he and I look at the exact same thing, what he sees immediately is what can be done, what can't be done. I'm not going to say he will shut it down because he's not closed-minded. There's just a sense of finality to whether it can or cannot happen. And he's grossed out by the political gameplay, literally like I'm above it. For me, I see the way the game is played. So that's where my perspective comes from. And you hear it when we have a conversation. He is absolutely a realist about stuff. And I'm kind of calling out where, one, it doesn't make people wrong to play the game because that's how a lot of things are done. Two, if you understand how the game is played, then you can play it better. So I'm always calling out, well, this is what's happening underneath all of this. And he's calling out, but that can't be done or that can be done. Why aren't they doing this? Like he wants the action taken. I always have lots of opinions about the way that things should be run. And he has more opinions about the way what should be done. Okay. So those are the differences. And then the last one, when we get to that top of the food chain, we get to that sixth level and we get to the perspective of self, this self-centered perspective, which sees us. Now, when we say self-centered, again, in a low expression, this could be people being super self-conscious and self-critical because they relate everything to themselves. The perspective is, maybe how does it affect me? It can be selfish, which it's not meant to be, but it's really meant to be more of what we see in this industry, which is saying that everything I see in my life is somehow a reflection of my inner state. Now, that might be something true for you, that it's a way that you have cultivated viewing, but this is actually the way that these people see. And when they can elevate into that way to say, everything I see in my life is a reflection of my inner state, and I do that without judgment, I do that only with curiosity and compassion, and use the world as a mirror to reflect how I can change inside. And if I change the world inside of me, I change the world outside of me. Those are those people. Like that's where we want to take those people. And when they can cultivate that and look at the world from that, they can create really great change, not just for themselves, but for everyone. Because that's what sixth line everything is about. It isn't selfish. It isn't just about me. It's about everybody. Okay, I hope you loved this. I hope this gave some insight into, can you see how people who have different perspectives bring different things to the table, but that also might cause some friction? Even when we have aligned point of views, our perspective of looking at the exact same thing might cause us to disagree. What if you thought in your next interaction with somebody, what if you were thinking about, I wonder what their perspective is? Are you hearing one of these come through more? And do you feel like they are in a high expression or a low expression of it? And can you have compassion if they're in the low? And can you have appreciation if they're in the high? So I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that this helped you understand yourself better, understand the people around you better, understand the people that you are interacting with that you don't even know. Because that's the goal. Can we have greater compassion and understanding of everybody around us as well as ourselves? And I hope that we hit the mark with that gave you a little taste of what it's like to see people for who they are rather than who we want them to be. And if you want the free guide, all you have to do is go to NicoleLaino.com/variables. And we will send it to you there. You can sign up there and download it, or you can go to Instagram and DM me the word variables. I'm at Nicole Laino Official, and we will register you there and sign you up and send it to you right there. You'll get the link and everything right there in the DMs. I hope that you found this helpful. I hope that you join the contest, that you enter the contest. We'll announce the winner on my Instagram next week, and you'll be DM'd if you are the winner. So you do need an Instagram account because that's how we'll be reaching out to you. All you have to do is share a little screenshot of this. Tell us what you love about human design, what you loved about this series, what you love about the show. Any of those, tag me. I'm at Nicole Laino Official, and then you will be entered in to win. And we will announce that winner 1 week from the airing of today's episode. So 1 week from today, the next Wednesday, I will be sending that out on my Instagram. Thank you so much for being a part of this show, a part of this series. I appreciate you. And remember, in order to have an unshakable business, you must first become an unshakable human. So thanks for letting us help you become unshakable with human design, everybody. We will see you next time. If you loved this episode and you're a fan of the show, please show us the love on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to the show and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with other entrepreneurs on their human design journey, join our free Facebook community, Human Design for Entrepreneurs. Go to NicoleLaino.me/podcast links to join the group, book a human design reading with me, or access our free human design resources. We'll see you there.